You guys know that I have a bunch of different species of python here in the green room, and I have one accidental boa who has an honorary python certificate. He's actually sitting right up in that hide up there right now. And some of you might know that now, because of peer pressure from my friend Garrett Hartle, I have an African house snake. Neither python nor boa.
A house snake? So now another snake is just roaming around in here? Where is it?
No, Kent. He's never going to be big enough to free roam.
Well, he looks like he could inject you with a load of venom deep into your veins.
Because of the color.
Because of his color.
As much as Kent's logic is flawed, it is interesting to note that the African house snake shares a descendant with elapids. That's cobras, coral snakes, black mambas. They used to be classified as colubrids until we realized that they're closer related to black mambas.
Jeez, man.
But there's no venom in there.
Still jeez.
There's a bunch of different subspecies of house snake. This happens to be a Cape house snake, but their phylogeny seems to be a mess, so I'll let the scientists sort that out. Oh, by the way, his name is Dr. Harry Vanderspiegel because he looks like an alien.
My people do not have scales. That's racist.
Resident Alien fans? Anybody? Anybody get it?
You go, girl. You said it, sister. Yes, queen.
He actually, like Dr. Harry Vanderspiegel on the show, he is not a real doctor, but it's not because he killed someone and is taking over their body and pretending to be a doctor. He's actually a chiropractor. So anyway, Harry's out of quarantine, and I decided to build a bioactive vivarium for him. Have we even rolled the logo yet? Wow, this is a long intro. Can we roll that? By the way, special thanks to REPTILIAVITA for sponsoring this video. They have a really cool brand new product that I'm actually using on Harry's cage. And you know, let's talk about the product right now because I can show you the finished cage and show you how I'm using that product. And then we can go back and I'll show you how I built the cage and the really stupid mistake that I made in doing it. REPTILIAVITA has created the world's first 6-in-1 reptile habitat controller. It makes reptile care effortless. It controls your temperatures, both overhead heat sources and heat mats, your UV lighting, regular cage lighting. It'll control your humidifier, fans. It's got 24/7 monitoring, so anything that you have hooked up to your cage, it can control through this one device. So right now I have this set up on Harry's cage, and really all this guy needs is a heat source and light during the day, you know, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So I've got this controlling his light, which is on this side, turning it on and off, and then he's got a deep heat projector right here that the unit inside works as a thermostat and communicates with this main unit that I control everything with. I have this one set to ball python because house snakes are very similar to ball pythons as far as what they need, but I also played with it a little bit and changed the parameters to what I want. But it's got a bunch of preset animals that are already configured, but from there you can change parameters however you want, or you can just set up your own based on what you need. Now, if I wanted to for Harry, I could give him a night drop. In other words, have it drop the temperature at night and then raise it up again in the morning. I could have it do that several times, whatever I want. You just set whatever you want the thing to do, whatever you want it to tell your different devices to do, it'll do that. But let's say I had a full-on tropical species, like let's say dart frogs in this cage. I could hook this unit up to my humidifier and have it control that as well. So that little unit that's inside acting as my thermostat also measures the humidity level. So if it gets too low, it would kick on my fogger or my mister, whatever I had hooked up in there. And then if it got too high and I had a little fan hooked in here, it could turn on the fan and circulate the air and get the humidity down. Pretty cool. This thing is super easy to use. Each thing that you want to control has its own little plug-in that you're going to plug into your power strip. This one happens to be the humidifier, which I'm not using because I don't have it. I would just plug my humidifier into here, and this is the unit that controls that and talks to your thermostat that's also measuring the humidity, which then talks to this unit that controls everything. But the cool thing is that it handles everything, right? But then it gives you alerts if you need to do anything. So pretty much once you've set it, you don't have to do anything unless it tells you, hey, you got to do something. So it'll give you a little alarm, something like that. which is pretty awesome. They're on Kickstarter right now, which I'm going to link down below. But they tested this for over a year with 50 different reptile specialists and 500 reptile keepers. And the product was very stable over that year. I really think that this little device might revolutionize reptile care. I'm really excited to have one of these, and I'm probably going to get a few more for my individual cages. Thank you so much to REPTILIAVITA for sponsoring this video, but also for the unit, because it's very exciting. All right, let's talk about how I built this thing. So a couple weeks ago, I had this idea to get a little glass cage for my little house snake. I didn't want it to be very big, you know, so it didn't take up too much room, but I wanted it to be big enough for Harry. And initially I was thinking of like really creative things that I could do, like put him in a bottle or something like that, like a big jug or something. That doesn't make sense. So eventually I got tired of thinking about it, and I just went down to the pet store and grabbed a front opening glass cage. The plan was to just quickly throw something together. I wasn't trying to spend too much time on it. Even the background is not custom. It's the background that came with the cage, the styrofoam background. No big deal. I already had most of the supplies to put a Bioactive together. On my way home, I stopped by my favorite plant store and I got a few plants that would work for the cage. So I brought this thing in, set up the cage, and started throwing dirt in. And I planted the plants, and I started placing stuff around the cage. Looked pretty cool. I put a couple hides in there and a water dish. Great, all set. Good for now.
Here's those little isopods. So they're already cruising around looking for food. That's cool. There they are crawling around. They're bright orange. It's like springtails, but with construction vests.
And then it wasn't long until I realized I had a problem. I forgot the drainage layer. The substrate that I had probably needs a drainage layer. So my choice was this. I could leave it and hope that it worked out, because maybe it would have been fine. But if it didn't work out, I would learn that by the plants getting root rot and dying. Or I could just tear the whole thing up and put the drainage layer in. And so that's what I decided to do. Now, the one thing I didn't have, because I wasn't thinking about my drainage layer, is the clay balls that you normally would use for a drainage layer. So I went to the store to get those. And again, not trying to spend a lot of time, not trying to take multiple trips to the store or go to different stores. I went to Lowe's and they didn't have clay balls. So I got rocks. And I brought the rocks home, put the rocks in. They weren't enough. I had to go back to Lowe's. So annoying that I have to go back to the hardware store for these rocks. I just went to Lowe's, so I got a couple of things of rocks. It's about half as much as I need. So back to Lowe's for more rocks. The rocks look better, I think, than the clay balls do. So that's a plus, but they're way more expensive and unnecessary. Should have been clay balls. Anyway, heading to Lowe's, and then I'm going back to finish this. This project is taking much longer than I expected. Went back to Lowe's, got a second batch of rocks, and fortunately I had screen that I could cut out, and you do the rocks and then you put the screen over. That's your barrier between the dirt and the rocks. And you can see right here how the drainage layer works when you have a system like this. You've got the soil right here. It's wet from about here down. So it keeps your soil dry on the top layer and moist at the lower layer, and then that excess water can drip down into the rocks, so it doesn't just sit there and rot your plant's roots. So I set the thing up correctly so that at least I knew the plants wouldn't die from root rot. It might be from something else, but not my incompetence, hopefully. And then, over time, like I got this piece of wood about a week ago and put that cool thing in there, and I've just made it kind of cool. It's not a huge cage. This, by the way, this is 18 by 18 square, 18 inch by 18 inch square. It's a small cage. Male house snakes stay pretty small, so I think he'll be able to live in this cage forever. But, if he grows out of it, he grows out of it. Not a big deal. It's not a huge cage that takes up much real estate, so I could put him somewhere else if I need to. Let's talk about Harry's behavior in this cage while we scroll the horde of keepers, who are the folks that help out the channel over on Patreon. This is the secret society known as the Horde of Keepers. This is a full list of members. Please don't tell anyone. So Harry is a hider. As expected, he never comes out during the day. The only time he's out during the day is if I've taken him out to film something. But as soon as the lights come out, As soon as that light shuts off, he comes out and he's just sitting out here. But if he sees me moving, he'll duck under something and hide. And he seems to deliberately use the leaf litter as cover to move from one spot in the cage to the other. He's really good at that. As I said, I recently added this big piece of wood here, and he will hide under that. He oftentimes, if I pull him out during the day for some reason, when I go to put him back, he oftentimes just goes and hunkers under that wood for the rest of the day. But I want him to have multiple hiding spots. There's another little tiny piece of cork bark here that he often crawls under if he feels like he needs to duck into something. But what I found is that, first of all, he's getting better with handling, and he's getting better with seeing me out over time. So I try to not spook him, but because this is a full glass cage, he sees everything that's going on. And I'm choosing not to black out the sides. He doesn't seem to be that stressed. He'll just go and hide if he feels like he needs to, but he eats just fine. So I think as he gets more used to the environment and more used to me, he's going to be a lot more comfortable with things. But I do expect him to probably always hide during the day. Who knows though? I'm sure future Bob will give you an update in a video in the future. Anyway, thanks so much to the Horde of Keepers for supporting this channel. And as always, special thanks to our channel sponsors, Black Box Cages, Lane Labs, the Royals Project, and Rare Genetics RGI. So Harry is pretty reclusive, but he becomes an extrovert during mealtime. Here, let me show you. This is him taking a meal. I film it a lot because he's super fast, wraps really quickly. They're constrictors. So a lot of times he'll wrap his meal and then let it go immediately. I mean, he keeps it in his mouth, but he undoes his coils. So I don't know what he's thinking with that, but he's always very happy to eat. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how his behavior changes as time goes on. Obviously, I'll keep you posted on that. Thanks again to REPTILIAVITA for sponsoring this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.